combination. And then this one,
That's the same thing with your fingerstyle practice. You gotta use every one finger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're all there for a reason, I figured, so, people say, someone asked this morning, should I put my fingers down or not? And I said, well, here's the way I look at it. If your fingers are locked on the top of the guitar, you can't play the guitar with them.
You're out of the game.
Yeah. Or you're in a different game, but, so I don't ever.
So maybe you can explain this to me then. How come that it's okay for a banjo player to do that, but not a guitar player?
Because of the tone.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
So you're dampening that top a little bit with that
Oh,
pinky.
you're dampening that thing a lot.
Okay.
Because otherwise it'll just ring so much, it's pretty horrendous sounding.
Okay.
But then there are times, where you have to lift your fingers because there's a certain sound you want to get. But for the most part, banjo players put these two fingers down on the top, on the head.
They're trying to stop the sound, but then they...
Right, they don't use those two either.
Put the whole hand on, right?
Yeah. All right, we're an anti-banjo group here, are we?
Just kidding, I didn't know that.
Hang on, Tara, could you come here and put your finger in that thing? Just kidding, Lord. Joke.
Why would you saying?
Wow, that sounds...
I think it's a chair.
Oh, is it your chair? Oh! I thought that was thunder.
Jaws.
I can tell that we have them in the palm of our hand right now.
Right where we want them.
Chord Chemistry, you like that book?
What is that?
Chord Chemistry?
I have that book, and it's one of the books, I can't comment on it because I haven't given it its due. I knew a lot of guys, do you know that book, the Ted Green, Chord
Yeah.
Chemistry? Is that a book you used?
No. I have it. I bought it when I was 15.
Two of us have it and haven't used it much.
Well, here's why I never used it. There was no application. It was every chord known to man.
Right.
Every chord, every
Right.
possibility of every chord, and no application.
Well, I shouldn't feel bad.
And I felt like I learned more when I'd go sit with a friend who would teach me a new chord,
Yeah.
and I'd go, oh, cool.
Yeah. It would be
I-
kind of akin to trying to learn to speak English with a dictionary, because it doesn't really put anything. It's got all the words there,
Right.
but it doesn't put them into
That's a
context.
good
so-
analogy.
What's that?
That's a very
Oh,
good
thank you.
analogy, and I don't even know the book.
That's why you guys are paying me.
So the next question is there anyone that has a chord a week, every word of a day calendar? It'd be kind of cool if a guitarist had chord per week and then a simple song that would use that.
I'm going to write that book, because...
All right, you write that one.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good idea. You could do an online thing.
Yeah.
You just
Chord every week.
Show a new chord every week.
And you chord per week and.
You probably have to
That's
show
a
more
good
than
Saturday.
one.
But within a context of maybe a
Once week,
scale pattern
if you want to
or
do a
something,
chord a
like,
day,
just so it's not in
just show
isolation.
a couple of
You know,
minutes,
like,
use
so that you
chord.
could,
You don't have to go through
Yeah.
the whole song.
you know,
That's a neat
somehow it's in
idea.
context.
in
of something.
context
Really
of
chord
something, either
shape.
a progression or within a
Chord shape.
scale
Yeah.
pattern.
Do a C
Or the
sharp minor 7
inversions,
here.
that's what.
What's that?
The inversions. Like when I was starting out, I just learned every chord of some form, which we read on the fifth, or sixth and fifth and fourth.
Right.
But then I don't know any of the inversions.
So that's something that you could actually, and kind of building on what Pete said a second ago, there are some books that I think I really recommend. But I think once you get to a certain point, one of the best books you can get is actually just a book of blank staff paper and start writing your own stuff and writing your own etudes. And one of the things that you could do in this book would be to take a simple chord. It's actually, believe it or not, harder to do that with triads, like your cowboy chords, than it is with seventh chords, because seventh chords have more notes, and so that they don't stretch out so far. But I bet, like if I take the C major 7 chord, and then you move each note of the chord up to the next note on the same string. So this is the root. I would move that up to the 3rd. This is the 5th, so it would go up to the 7th. This is the 7th, so it would go up to the root. This is the 3rd, so it would go up to the 5th. And then I would map that out and figure it out, and I would see that. That's kind of a tricky chord to grab, but it's actually such a nice sounding chord that I don't mind the extra effort. And then if I continued that process, then I would get to here with, and then this last one is my least favorite, but it's kind of a funky sounding. But so then you can say, okay, I don't like the sound of that, but maybe this one I could substitute the 6th for the 7th. And through that process I discover, oh, that's A minor 7. So this kind of, see that, you're kind of becoming your own teacher in that way and working through those chords, and then you start to see where they lie on the neck.
It's
And
a good
I'm learning that
exercise.
through arrangements.
But-
Because I go, oh, I see what he's doing there.
Yeah, I think you even had a sheet on that, didn't you?
Yeah, last year I brought a sheet that showed those exact inversions, and I got it from Brett Wilmot's book.
Yeah.
He did one called Harmony or something like that, I don't remember.
Charlie Chapman had a little sheet on those
Yeah.
drop twos at Berkeley.
It's a great, and this is just, on the inside 4 strings. Where you do these, and then you take it off a minor 7th chord. What is it? Whatever it is. And then, once you get them down on one chord, like on C, then move it either back 1 fret or up 1 fret, and the guitar looks completely different.
They're all shapes you can move though, aren't they? Or-
Yeah.
Yeah, you can make it a point not to use any open strings with it.
Okay.
Or use the open strings if you want, but you can kind of construct your own way of thinking about it. I like to use a circle of fourths when I'm doing something like that because I could go all the way through all keys and think about how to spell all those chords. And I found that once you teach a guitar player how to do that, they go from being like the worst theory students to being the best. Because, we actually, once you start to see what the notes are. We learn the notes usually on the guitar from the 6th and the 5th strings because those are the roots of our chords. But then if you start learning the notes on the 1st string, working backwards, thinking melodically instead of thinking from the root, then now you've covered half the strings on the neck, now. And the other ones can be extrapolated by just moving octaves. So, if you were really trying to, I
might
don't
need to
think
explain
everyone
that.
in here is necessarily working on this aspect of their playing right now. But if you were trying to do those same 4 chords on, let's say on the top 4 strings, so there's a C major 7. And then if I were to say, okay, the next in the circle of fourths, the next would be F major 7. Then B flat major 7. And then E flat major 7. A flat major 7.
Well, that's cool. I've never
See
done
what I
that.
mean? Then up, down, up 1, down the next. Now, if you're really working on that, and you have to fight your way through that for the first week or so, your brain is going to hurt. But
there a
it's,
book for
at
that?
the end of the week,
I'm already
at
on
the end of the week,
it.
you know.
Well, and I'm on an application
So is
for
it-
it. One of my problems
Okay.
is that I gotta get out of the bass third way.
Right, okay, so let's say that we're playing, why don't you give me like a bossa nova bass on a C. So I'm comping.
You call out the chord.
See what I mean? So, and
Yeah.
so now I'm getting out of that one place and I can start thinking melodically. See what I mean? So now as long as I've got that part covered there,
Right.
it frees me up to be thinking in another way.
Well, that would be what your chord of the week, whatever you're doing, that would, I
Sure.
would sign
Is there
up
a
for
book
that.
That'd be an awesome.
I don't have to do chord of the week. I don't have time to do chord of the week.
Have
I'm
you
giving it
written
to
out
you.
any of that stuff, those exercises? Where you go through the thing in fourths?
I've done them by hand and given them to individual students, but I've never done it and put it on a computer somewhere.
Okay.
But I probably
Wonderful.
one
Yeah,
of these
that'd be
days should do
A
that.
good thing.
Yeah.
I could do that for you if you like. I've got my computer here, and in Sibelius you can transpose so easily.
Oh, you're doing Sibelius?
Yes, of course.
Okay, we've got a Mac, PC, Sibelius, Finale.
Oh.
And
I
finale.
don't even know, I don't even know
Dreadnought.
you anymore.
I know. I was like, next thing you know, you're going to be telling me that you drink O'Doul's
Well,
and go to the fake bar and get in fake fights.
and what's wrong with that?
How about Desi Cerna stuff? Is that Desi Cerna, the fretboard theory, or is that any, heard of that, Desi Cerna?
I don't know. I don't know that. Yeah.
I've never heard of, is that a person's name?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Is this a-
Yeah, let's, as long as you guys have questions, we might as well do that,
Any
right?
place we would find what you were just describing, because I hear what you're saying, but I'd have to put my hands on it.
Pete will have it out
What you
tomorrow.
could do is.
You'll have it
if
maybe
you,
by tomorrow.
Yeah, well, I'll just write it
That's a
up.
great
Yeah,
idea.
There is
That's so
an
helpful.
app, Matt Warlock makes an app, I forget what it's called, it's like Drop 2 something.
Yeah,
or
that's what
other.
these chords are, drop two
And
chords.
it's a great app. It doesn't work on my new phone, but it works on my old pad.
Yeah.
And he'll take you through 2-5-1s for, you generate the chords. I'll show you the app. It's really quite useful, for that kind of thing. Because I went through and learned all the drop 2s, for those.
Let me make sure we all understand what we're talking about here. Drop 2s and 2-5s, I'm seeing heads spinning.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, drop 2s mean that when you spell a chord from the top down, okay, so like from high down to low, you drop in the second note. So this, like the C major 7, the way you play this on guitar, from high to low is C, B, G, and then E, B, G, and C. But the second note down would actually be a C. Okay, if we could do that on a guitar, we would play. But that's not really practical. So what you do is you drop the second note down an octave, that note, and that gives you this voicing. And the same when you do this inversion. When you do this inversion, the second note would have been an E, but now the E is on the bottom. The second note of this one would be the G, and the G is on the bottom. That's what they're referring to when they say drop 2. And 2-5s, those are chord progressions. So like if you're in G, 2 is A minor, or A minor 7, to D7, to G, 2, 5, 1. And those are based on the scale. If G is 1, A is 2, B is 3, C is 4, D is 5. So 2, 5, 1. And if you're a jazzer, you play them as major 7s or major 6. But that's so I think that's a big help to explain that to everyone.
Yeah.
But I bet there's an app.
There's an app for that.
Wait a minute, I'm going to write this stuff out. Don't anyone go buy an app today. Or especially don't go get a free one.
To have it written out.
What's that?
I would love to have it written out.
But here,
Yeah.
another reason I think though for kind of in some ways taking responsibility for your own guitar books is that a lot of times I just won't like the way that somebody's thinking about it because it doesn't match the way I think about it. And so one of the things you can do is write it out in a way that makes sense to you, to think about it. Because part of understanding the fretboard.
Don't you think it takes a certain amount of knowledge to be able to think, oh, this isn't written very well, I need to rewrite this?
Probably. So I'm not saying,
So
it depends on
probably
where you
need
are in your own playing. If you're still trying to learn, first position, then disregard what I just said. But if you're at the point where you're ready to start looking at those kinds of things, you might not need an app. It's in fact, in some ways, or a book, it might be doing some of the important work for you that you would really grow from having to kind of walk through the fire and figure out.
Well, and I think that's a lot of my books, like I'll look at them, I start looking at them and I'm like, I just have no idea what they're talking about. And then 2 years later I'll go, oh, I get it now. So, it depends, like you said, on the level you're coming in and where it's hard to come from the beginning, and I don't know. I haven't found a really good one for that.
Yeah. No, I haven't either, honestly. But
I really don't believe in learning from books. I believe it's way better to sit down with another player. You'll learn so much more, so much faster if you say, oh, that was cool. What was that?
Do you think you can learn from tunes?
Oh, yeah.
Because I learned a lot from, I've learned a lot from your arrangements,
Uh-huh.
from just different
That's
things that you're
different.
doing.
What's that?
Your books, that's different.
Well, my books, of course, is different. And Jeff's.
I was going to say, I have books too.
Fingerstyle flat picking. Those are really the only 14 books anyone here needs.
Other than those books, if you have those books, and sometimes you need a copy. If you have 2 places that you live, you should have a copy in each place.
And I've done probably,
Couple guitars.
Exactly.
I've probably recorded 17 video lessons. And I think they help people, but for the most part, most people that I see who say, oh, I learned this from your video, they don't get it right. Because there's no one sitting there saying, wait, stop, no, you got to play it this way, don't do it that way, no, that's the wrong fingering, you'll never get to the next chord. And they struggle on these things because they don't realize that they're not playing it correctly. Because the video doesn't interact with you. That's why I think it's really good.
Fire, is that a iterative thing where people record and send it to you? I know some places do.
No,
Well,
no,
they
they do have
they
lessons
have
set
that,
up
yeah.
like that,
Okay.
where you can do that with people, but
Yeah.
I don't do those kind of
Would
lessons.
that work over the internet?
Oh, yeah, I've done Skype lessons with
Okay,
people,
Okay, so that can work.
you know, but really the videos, they're a great tool to have, because they, you know, I slow things down and I play them, but you don't get the feedback. And I think getting that feedback instantly makes all the difference. Like when you're playing an E chord, I'm saying, no, play E minor, you know, and you're playing the E, I'm saying, no, E minor. If you're doing that with the video, there's no one gonna say, so you're gonna be playing the E chord.
By the
And then you're gonna
third,
go
by
out
the
and play
third
the
head
song with
slap, I
someone.
got it.
Yeah. And you go out and play the
Well,
song
that
with
brings
someone, and
up
I'm
the
just, it
writing
could have been
problem.
anyone, I
No,
just picked
no,
you.
it's good example.
You know, but, you know, I think, so if you meet someone that plays music, you know, you always wanna find someone who's a little better than you. You know, not a whole
That's a
lot better,
lot of
because
people
they'll,
for me.
you know, what's that?
That's a lot of people for me.
Well,
You got a lot to choose from.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah, yeah. I think actually one of the things that one of the mistakes that young guitarists, and I say young, I mean people that are still in the formative developmental time, one of the mistakes they make is isolating themselves from other players, thinking I don't want to play for other people until I get better because I don't want to embarrass myself. And it's that isolation in some ways that keeps you there. Because you don't get to see, you know, you're not in the game, and by being afraid of having someone call you out for playing something wrong, if you can get over that, you've done yourself a big service, because then you're in the game. You can learn by participating instead of always waiting until I'm good enough to get in there and start playing.
Yeah, and I was that person for a long time.
I think I was too.
I didn't want to get out and show anyone that I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
My pride got in the way for a long time. Now I'm like, whatever. You know, I don't care. If I don't know it, they're going to find out anyway, you know.
Yeah. So that's why I think it's so, you know, if you have friends that play, or if there's not a jam circle or something where you live, if you could start one, but, you know, you want to kind of join the community of musicians. And camps like this, frankly, you know, this is a great way to meet people, and also to, you know, put yourself out there a little bit as far as
Yeah.
your playing goes.
Yeah, I find that the more you guys get to know each other, the more you're going to learn, because somebody here knows something that you don't know, and you know something that someone else doesn't know. And that's where the beauty of these camps comes from, is when you sit down with your campmates, or whatever you call yourselves. I don't know what the hell you are. But, you know, when you sit down with each other and you play something away from me and Jeff, then I think there's a real beauty in that. I'm not saying that I don't want to play with you guys. I'm just saying, you know, you get more when you know, you'll get something different when you play with each other. Do you know Isn't She Lovely?
I bet I could figure it out. Show me.
Go ahead and play slow.
that groove, you have to show that to me. I was trying to do,
It's harder with a flat pick. I just,
there. And this last root.
oh,
Oh. Just right up the scale.
yeah, and actually, well, up the pentatonic, it stays on the root, but I break it down because I'm just a guitar. It's kind of lame sound if you,
Set your metronome on, say, the half key,
Mhm.
there's a number, the 1 and the 3. Actually, the metronome sound in the 2 and the 4.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mhm.
Really interesting, some of those video I watched.
yeah, we just were talking about that this morning in our class upstairs.
I use drum loops these days.
Do you?
Yeah, just feels better to me,
Yeah,
and I get to hear more subdivisions.
right, yeah.
You know, because
Well, you
Is that a program?
yeah, well, I bought some app
Mm.
called
Drum beats? Drum beats.
it's something like that, drum beats. I'm not
Is it in
sure.
here?
No, it's on my iPad. But they've got a bunch of sample loops. They only go up in increments of 5 at a time, so I don't like that. I'd like to be able to go up in tenths of a beat, but it goes up 5 beats at a time. But it's okay. I mean, it works me pretty hard when I'm working hard, wouldn't you say? I mean, yesterday was a stellar day at the,
Yes, it was.
the Hutlinger.
But I don't hear the drum loop you've got.
No, I put on earphones so that
Yeah.
she won't have to hear tick-tack, 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 tick-tack all day long.
Does it have the same problem when you first buy a metronome, how it speeds up and slows down and everything? Sort of break
Yeah,
it?
it takes a while for them to settle in.
Yeah,
exactly.
Throw that thing out the window.
Yeah, I thought my first metronome was broken.
I was
Yeah,
playing with a friend, you remember when they went like this?
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm having a hard time watching it, and she goes, I'm just listening.
Yeah.
You have your iPad here with it on?
Yeah, I've got it up at the
You sometimes,
Yeah.
you know, the next 3 days, bring it and just kind
Yeah.
of go through.
absolutely.
I'll bring it down a
Yeah,
little bit.
It'd be really good. Yeah,
That's a
tune
good
back
idea.
in the black.
So to actually slowly speed up. So you were first saying that you had it where it would do loops, but does it actually ramp up over a period?
No, that's the nice thing about a metronome. They stay the same.
No.
Well, you were saying up
You
5 at
can,
a
you
time.
can
so
set,
it's not like-
if you did
Oh,
want
you
to
do
set
it
faster,
manually.
you were saying that you can't go from 95 to 96.
Right, I
You're
go
going
from 95 up to 100, but it doesn't do it automatically. No, you got to
No, or is it,
Stop.
it's not a program?
punch a
ramp?
button.
No.
It's not like real musicians.
Yeah, nothing at all.
For real drummers.
Who can go up without even, you won't even know they're going up till you
Yeah.
suddenly you can't play the song anymore.
The guy at church the other day was
Oh,
I just had a quick, changing the
he's a
subject.
cowboy.
Can you both comment like on effective practicing? Like if you have 2 hours or an hour or whatever, how do
15
you
minutes.
suggest breaking
Yeah.
it down so that
15 minutes.
you
Yeah.
Warm up for 20 minutes. Something easy tempo. Here's the way I do it anyway. I pick something that's easy-ish, you know, for the first 15 or 20 minutes.
Not a song.
And I just work on, well, it depends. Sometimes, like today, I sat and I played that, you know, little tune I play. A lot of times I do this etude that goes, I'll start out about this tempo, which is, I don't know, 110 or so. And I'll build it up to 150. You know, when it hits 150, I can play anything I want to play, and there's no doubt. You know, but like right now, I'm starting to speed it up on purpose. And it's a great exercise. It just totally frees up my right hand. And I start out really slowly, and then I build the speed up, and then when I'm at the end of my practice session, I'll do it and I'll slow it down. Or if I'm done with my warm-up, I'll slow it back down so I don't wear out the muscles in my forearm. And I've always done that my whole life. I've never had any tendonitis or anything. Have you?
I've had The problems I've had with my hands have actually made me, I think, a better player. I did have some problems with it, and it came from going too heavy on the strings and then pushing too hard. And I
Oh, yeah.
learned over time to not push so hard and to lighten up and relax.
Yeah.
But it took me being injured to kind of come to that realization. But that's one of the things that warming up can do if you do it in a mindful way, where you're, thinking about everything that's going on. Like if I'm warm, I agree that a good part of it should be spent warming up or doing some kind of an etude or study. Because in the same way, I think I used this metaphor this morning, but in the same way, if you have a football team that wants to learn to play football and they go to practice, you don't just say, okay, team, let's put offense against defense, go out there and play the game for 2 hours. You could get a little bit better that way, but that's not what they do. Instead, they focus on drills that work on the micro movements of what they're doing, so that in the context of the game, the greater context, those movements are more precise. And that's what an etude like what Pete just played, you're getting your right hand fingers are getting limbered up and warmed up, and so it prepares him for whatever piece of music he might be wanting to work on. So then you come into this new piece of music, this new music, with your hands prepared and your brain warmed up and everything's working.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which gets me to my next thing I was going to tell you about, practice. You've got limited time, then you have to have a goal.
Okay.
If you go into practicing without a goal, then you're not really going to achieve anything. You might play the guitar, and that's good, but if you're really trying to get better and want to get to the next level, which is a popular thing to say these days, I just want to get to the next level. What is the next level? Well, it might be just learning another tune, but you have to go in with some sense of focus, like what is it I want to learn today, and you work on that, whether it's a whole tune or 3 tunes or whatever. You just have to decide, I'm going to work on those. I'm not going to work on anything else. I'm going to concentrate on those. And then when you're done practicing, do your warm-up stuff again. And then put it away and pat yourself on the back and open a beer and enjoy it. Yes?
I heard, I don't know, this was maybe more of a flat pick warm-up, but I was listening to a John Smith, like a 1-hour interview with him. And he was played big bands and did a lot of solo stuff.
Sure, James.
And anyway, when he was playing the big bands, he'd have to start up and be without any warm-up because everything was quiet guitar-wise, and he had to be right on with people. And he would flex his muscles in his right hand to warm his hand up so that he was ready to go just without being able to warm up otherwise in a band setting.
Notice he didn't have acrylic nails.
Yeah. But his situation, it sounds like, didn't allow him the luxury of having a warm-up session.
I'll bet he warmed up before he got to the gig.
Boy, I sure would.
Or when he got to the gig, he probably warmed up somewhere quietly, or, But you can't on the bandstand, no.
Yeah. Hey, you guys had some great questions today. Thank you for...
Yeah, we got to get to work.